Hey folks, Beer League here with another shorts episode. We haven't done one of these in a while. This one will be a little bit different. I just put up a full review of the Aycane A-Shield skate socks that I did a unboxing and first impressions video of. I will play the audio for that at the end of this shorts episode. So if you're someone that wants to just hear what I'm talking about, the visuals help, but they're completely not required to get my full idea of what I think of them. That will be after the shorts episode, so you can just stick around and listen to that. In these shorts episodes, I kind of try to recap a lot of small things, quick stuff, kind of housekeeping, things that aren't a full episode in their own, and I don't want to be throwing out, 5-minute episodes, unless that's what people want. If you guys want 5-minute episodes, let me know, and I can do that. But I kind of like to condense this stuff up, and every so often do one of these short episodes. So one of the things I want to talk about was, why do I do reviews of things like skate socks or, like hockey shirts that you wear under your gear and things like that? Why am I doing reviews of stuff like that when I don't ever really talk about skates or sticks or the stuff most hockey channels talk about? And there's a couple reasons for that. One, I don't have a lot of sticks. I don't have tons of skates. I have my one pair of skates I've had for a number of years now. I don't have money to go get that stuff. That's the biggest thing, because that stuff's expensive. So I don't have that, and it doesn't break. At least my stuff doesn't break that often. I'm not getting, free gear from companies generally. Go check that stuff out. Two, I definitely do not push my gear to the limit to, I think, fully appreciate how a lot of this stuff works. With my sticks, I get a very low flex stick. I don't shoot a lot as it is when I play hockey. I don't have a very good shot. And I don't think that I'm in a place to really talk in depth about any of these things. I have obviously I have opinions on my stick that I use and things that I like and don't like. But a lot of that is just, to me, is just personal preference. I don't think that I am at a level where I can properly test out and then convey all the various aspects of a lot of this gear and, how well it holds up versus other things to, I think the level that other hockey channels do. They do a much better job of, kind of going in depth, having people that are either former pros or close to being pros, stuff like that, breaking down, hey, I took 20 shots with this stick and now 20 shots with this stick and 20 shots with this one, and here's the differences and stuff. I mean, me doing that would be ridiculous. It would sound so ridiculous for me to review that stuff. So I don't. So I review the stuff that, one, I, for myself, outside of doing any of this beer leaguer stuff, was buying to try and get better things of, like undergarments and the socks and stuff like that. And why I've switched off from things. The other big thing that I buy, besides apparently buying lots of socks, because I just have trouble finding skate socks that fit me. I got big feet. It sucks. Besides that, bags is the other big one that I kind of go through. So I will be doing some bag reviews and kind of talking about how I've beaten up bags, because I pretty well beat the crap out of my hockey bags pretty badly. So I will be doing some reviews and talking about those as well. But that's why I have reviews for things like socks and, stuff like that versus like a stick or something. I think that's more in my wheelhouse of what I can talk about and I think properly review in a useful way. Another thing I wanted to bring up is I was doing a couple videos from previous podcasts and I talked about hockey positions. And I talked about my thoughts on how you should progress through hockey positions. And especially on TikTok, there was a lot of comments about what I said, disagreeing with what my thoughts were. And instead of trying to record this into a quick TikTok and put it out there or try and write it out into a whole bunch of comments about the thing, or address it here, hopefully people that are seeing those videos are seeing this and it makes sense. So my idea was, and this is what I still think, is the way that beginners should progress is, and I think everyone kind of universally agrees, start at wing. And after you play wing, I think you should be playing defense. I think because it is helpful to know how wing plays and then how defense plays when you want to play center, because center kind of has to play a combination of both of those things. And I think when I brought those, people see these little clips and snippets of me saying these things. I don't think they get the full breadth of, I'm talking about when people are learning to play hockey. I'm talking about beginner beer leaguers, not high level pros, not people that are playing to play pro, not, somebody that's playing D1 hockey or something like that, and is going to make this a career or anything. Really, it's for the low level beer leaguers, people starting out, stuff like that. And my reasoning for going in that order of stuff is, I think that wing, is the easiest to kind of learn the basics of over anybody else, because you have the least defensive responsibilities. You still have them, but you have the least amount of responsibilities, the least varied tasks usually. Just kind of stay with the defensemen, cover them, try and stay in a general zone area on defense. And on offense, depending on how complicated you make it, which again, beer league, probably not complicated, you're kind of staying generally from the dots to the net on one side. If the other winger moves, maybe you switch over, kind of do the triangle thing there around the goal. And I think that gets you a very good, 101 on playing wing. I think then playing defense, for a similar version of that, it's, again, a pretty simplified thing to get you kind of to the 101 version of playing defense. Offensively, generally you're staying around the blue line on your side. You might switch with your D partner, but generally you're staying on your side. And blue line-ish area, maybe in a little, pinch a little bit, maybe you're back out a little bit if no one else is back, kind of thing, but generally there. And then defensively, you're staying kind of where the winger was, just on the other side of the ice, for the most part. Again, hockey is not very strict with this stuff. It's fluid. And I think that's as you go up and get better, you realize just how fluid all this stuff is and how much everybody can and should interchange. But from a beginner standpoint, I think that gets you to defense 101. And then to me, center is the covering of both of those things. It's the culmination of those two groups and in between them and kind of picking up the slack for them. And that's my thought on why you progress that way. Now, as far as kind of mastering these skills, wing is, again, I think the easiest to master of those things. And when I say master, I don't mean become an NHL superstar with those. But I think really getting good at knowing where you're supposed to be and the movements and stuff like that, as I think it is probably the easiest to do that. And then center probably after that is for a mastery level is the closest to wing, because just of kind of how the position plays generally. And defense, it's to get really, really good at defense, you start talking about really good backward skating, front to back to front transitions, gap control, all these kinds of things. And that's a very different skill set than generally your forwards have. Now, you're really good two-way centers that can help out and do all these things on both ends of the ice and play a true 200-foot game. They can do most of that stuff as well. They can skate backwards really well because they're covering for D, or they're being basically a third defenseman, and they understand gap control and all that sort of stuff too. So, being a really good complete center is probably knowing and being almost as good as any of the wingers or the defensemen and being able to do both of those things. But I think because once you get past kind of that 101 level of knowing your position and you start getting into the more position specific skills to have, I do agree with the people that were saying that kind of the progression is wing, center, D, just because D is kind of its own thing. I think it's like wing to center, and D is over here doing its own thing almost. Everybody's obviously still skating and shooting and doing all that kind of stuff, but it's a different skill set to try and master that. So when I talk about these things, I'm talking about them from a lower level perspective and getting people started and just getting people to know their positions and getting the basics of things, not to like an advanced level. I think that starts getting a whole nother stratosphere of how people should be training and learning and what they should be doing and looking for with their skills and everything. So hopefully that kind of clears it up and makes sense. If it doesn't, I would love to hear about it. Drop me a line somewhere. A lot of different ways you can get a hold of the show. Like I always say, you can, send a message to the show through the website, thebeerleaguer.com. You can also do a voicemail through there. I've got a couple voicemails that we'll be addressing on future episodes, so keep those voicemails coming. You can also drop a note through there. You can send an email to the show. You can comment wherever you're listening to the show as well and do that. And would love to hear if you agree or disagree with that. I'd also love to hear if there is some other stuff you'd like me to review, like some other kind of off the beaten path hockey stuff to talk about. I have a lot of goofy little hockey gadgets that I'll probably be doing some little videos and stuff on and talking about. And, if you'd like to hear them on the podcast, I can throw the audio version up on the pod as well versus just putting them, as a video version. Finally, I've mentioned it in previous shows, and I'll mention it here in the shorts episode, because I like to get this stuff out there, is I do have a Beer Leaguer newsletter. You can sign up for it at thebeerleaguer.com. And the newsletter is just a once a month. It goes out. It recaps all the podcasts that have gone out. It recaps any kind of videos that I've done that are not just videos of the podcast, so any other videos. If there's any kind of other social media stuff that's gone out that isn't just, a clip from the show or something, anything else that I've done, be it on TikTok, on Instagram, on X, any of those things. Like I said, once a month. That's all. It's about a ton of, not getting spammed with messages from me, and you're not getting a bunch of crap you don't want. It's just kind of catching up if you miss something. If you're not constantly watching all the stuff that I put out, I try and put out some kind of fun, hopefully useful information. Things like Costco had boot dryers last year, and I did a video about that saying, hey, if you're looking for a thing to dry your skates or gloves, they have a really cool boot dryer. I was at IKEA, and I went through and showed some neat things IKEA had that you could use for hockey things, like different drying rack stuff that they had that you could very easily repurpose with no changes to it for drying your hockey gear and stuff like that. So, some kind of fun things of that nature. If you're not following all the different social medias, then the newsletter is a great way to check that stuff out. All right, that's all I had. That's going to do it for this shorts episode. Like I said, following up right after this, I will have the audio version of the Aycane A-Shield Skate Sock full review. And you can go check out the video of it or just listen to the audio version after this. All right, thanks a lot, everybody. Hey, everybody, Beer Leaguer here with the follow-up full review of the Aycane A-Shield Skate Sock. A couple weeks ago, I did an unboxing and first impressions video that you can find linked around somewhere here for that to go see what I initially thought. Once again, these were sent to me by Aycane. Not a sponsored video. They didn't ask for anything. I think it was just kind of a, hey, we saw you made some other videos on previous socks and their shirt and stuff and sent this. So thank you, Aycane, for that. All right, so I have worn these socks now for about a dozen games in total. Some of them for back-to-back days in some of my regular league games. So they've gotten worn 4 games. They've gotten washed a bunch of times. They've kind of gone through a bit of a ringer, as much as socks can in that short amount of time. And so what do I think of them? Am I still going to be using them? If they going to be my regular sock that I wear, they're going to be in the sock rotation. Talk about that now. So the quick overview here for these socks. They are a cut-resistant sock. I always like a cut-resistant sock because I'm wearing socks, because you should wear socks with your skates, because otherwise that's gross and it's terrible for your skates. But it's one of those things of I'm wearing socks anyways, I might as well have a little extra cut resistance. Why not? If it doesn't make it super uncomfortable, why not just have a little bit of extra protection there, just in case, a little bit extra peace of mind. So these are cut resistant socks, and you can see they are cut resistant from like right above the heel all the way up to they're like a mid calf ish, almost to your knee sock. Not quite a knee sock. I think a little bit higher than mid calf, like upper calf, I guess you would call them sock. And that is the cut resistant material. What they say for the cut resistance, it is a level A5 cut resistance. I have no idea what that means. I don't know. I have not tried the cut resistance. I have not tried to cut myself or cut the socks with anything, but I've seen other videos with things where they do that. I believe them that they are cut resistant. So that sounds good. I think that's a pretty good cut resistance. They're supposed to be some of the most cut resistant socks that you can get out there for hockey. So that's great. You know, that's why you got cut resistant socks. But how do they feel? How is it wearing them? Well, like I pointed out in my first impressions video, the big thing for me is right here, the transition from the cut resistant material upper to the regular sock lower. That to me is the big difference with these socks. If you look at some of the other socks that are out there, I'll show you even here, like the other Aycane Blade Pro socks that I've talked about. They are a similar profile kind of sock, you know, similar-ish size and everything. But this upper cut resistant part is much thicker. So the transition here is much more pronounced. I will also compare it here to a Bauer sock that is a cut resistant sock that, again, the upper portion is very much thicker, the cut resistant portion, than the bottom. But the bottom portion that actually goes on your foot is super thick. This is a very thick foot part there. These new A-Shield socks, the biggest thing that I have noticed with them is you can feel it on the outside, definitely the difference from the bottom portion to the top portion. They feel very different on the outside. But inside the sock, it really doesn't feel that different. It just kind of feels like a regular sock. I think I talked about that in the first impressions video, that putting them on felt just like putting on a regular athletic sock. And that's held very, very true. It's super easy to put these on. A lot of these other cut resistant socks, the cut resistant upper part is thicker, and so it's tougher to put on. For me, as someone that has kind of big feet, so I have trouble with a lot of these socks getting them over my heel, these were super easy. These are like the easiest cut resistant socks I've ever put on because there's not a big difference from the materials here. There's not like a very big seam that you feel inside, and that's really nice. That has been a huge thing for me. For over the summer, what that has meant for me is I can not wear socks to the rink because it's hot out, wear flip-flops, and easily just throw these on as I'm getting changed. With other socks, I usually wear them to the rink because it's a pain in the butt to put them on. I don't want to be struggling in the locker room trying to get those socks on. So that has been really nice with these. As far as comfort during the game, I do like how they feel. They do feel like a athletic sock. They actually feel a lot more, almost exactly like regular non-cut resistant skate socks. They are not super thin like a dress sock like some people like to have, but they are not super thick either. Like a lot of the cut resistant socks are pretty thick. These are not that. These feel like a regular like white tube sock almost that you're wearing. So it's a very comfortable thing to wear. It's a very comfortable feel in the skate. They do have these little design on the foot here. And I believe that that's supposed to help with kind of some of like the moisture wicking and everything. And you don't feel this. At least I don't. I don't feel this in my skates at all. I don't feel any difference there. It feels like a very just one-piece sock. So it's a very comfortable sock to wear with that. As far as kind of the moisture wicking properties, that is something they do promote on here. I don't know how wick away the moisture is on it, but I will say that they are definitely not hot. It is not a hot sock. And when I take it off, my feet are not drenched. It's been super hot and humid here the last couple of weeks. So most of me is disgustingly drenched after a game of hockey. All my gear is pretty gross. All my undergarments are, you can wring them out very easily. So I have noticed, my feet are not sweaty when I take them out of these, when I take these off. So I assume it's doing something there. I think it's helping something because it's the only part of me that's not dripping in sweat. So that's good. So I think these little kind of vent things, I think that's what they're supposed to do, are doing something to help out. The other thing that I like is they are stretchy enough that they stay up, but they're not constricting. That's another thing I have, having gone through a number of these different cut resistant skate socks, is some of them, the upper part here is so thick that it's like a restricting sock. Like you can feel it's like a really tight compression sock on you. These do not feel like that. There is definitely compression to it, but doesn't feel like a compression sock. I keep going back to my like white athletic tube sock. That's kind of what it feels like. It's enough compression that it's staying in place. It stays up. It's not getting, it's not falling down during a game or anything like that. It's as much compression as I think you would want without it getting to be uncomfortable. I will be doing at some point this summer kind of a larger shootout of all the different socks. I have a couple other ones. I don't know why I've started to collect these socks, but I have. I will be doing kind of a shootout of all these goods and bads, things I do and don't like about them. And you can kind of see from the older cut resistant socks to these newer ones how that has changed a lot. Because the older ones were very compressive, restrictingly so compressive, and at times could be a little bit uncomfortable. And socks have gotten much better over the years, in the last just a few years that I've been getting these cut resistant socks. Aycane, A-Shield, the new top of the line cut resistant skate sock. How's it held up? If you can see here, so far it's held up great. It's gone through the wash a number of times. No kind of weird pilling on anything. No separation between these layers on the sock here. That's usually what I think you tend to see, is that's where it'll separate. The top part here is still plenty stretchy and not all stretched out. So far, like I said, I've played about a dozen or so games on it. It's been washed after every single one. And I'm not doing any special care to wash these. They're just getting washed with all my other hockey stuff. And so far, they've held up great. No issues with that whatsoever. They've doing a great job. So what socks are my go-to hockey socks that I'm wearing? It's these guys. I know, big surprise. All the nice stuff I've said about them. These are my go-to socks for every game. This is what I wear. When I went and played in the weekend tournament and had to have a couple different changes of socks, these are the ones that I wore the most. These are the main socks that I wore for games. The other ones were like the backups because I don't like wearing wet socks. And I was able to wash them if I have multiple games in a day. You can't wash them always between games. And if you're changing, you need extra pairs of socks. So these were the main ones that I wore. And unless something happens to them, I don't see them breaking down anytime soon or anything. These are going to be my main skate sock for the foreseeable future. Like I said, they are super comfortable. They are the most comfortable cut resistant sock that I think I've ever had. So that's a huge thing. And they're just a comfortable skate sock. I like kind of that athletic sock feeling. I'm not someone that likes super thin socks. I also never like the super thick socks. I like how the foot part feels in my skate. I like how this upper calf part, I like how that, I really don't feel it. I don't really notice it underneath my shin guards at all. It's there, doesn't bother me at all. So I like that because that's what I really want from most of my protection stuff, is to not notice it, really ever notice it, and just have it there just in case. And yeah, I don't notice these at all. So would I recommend these A-Shield socks to somebody if you're looking for a skate sock? If you're looking for a cut resistant skate sock, these would be my first recommendation for sure. I'd recommend these over anything else. They are a little bit expensive compared to some of the other options that are out there. I think it's totally worth it. I think it's worth the money for it, to have the peace of mind of the cut resistance and then also the comfort. I think that they are more comfortable than the Blade Pro socks. I was actually wearing these other Aycane socks previously, and I still really like these, but the upper, it's comfortable. It's really nice. It's like a two-piece upper. I like them, but these are so much easier to put on. They feel so much more like regular socks. And like I said, you don't notice it. I think it's a very good level of compression and everything. You don't notice any of this. You don't notice you're wearing the socks really, which I really like. So I would recommend these to anybody looking for a cut resistant sock. And honestly, if you were someone that was looking for, a more hockey specific sock to wear, because if you're not getting a cut resistant sock, I don't know why you'd be getting hockey socks. You can't just wear a regular athletic sock underneath your stuff. So I think if you are looking for something that is a little bit more hockey specific, which really to me only means cut resistance, I would do it. If you're someone that can afford to get the little bit of extra protection of the cut resistance, I would always opt to get that over not. Even if you're getting one of these other ones that has that, just so you have that cut resistance there, I think it's totally worth it. Just to have a little extra layer of protection. Same thing I talk about if you're getting a specific base layer to wear under your hockey stuff. Get the one that has the built-in neck guard. I'm not going to go out and buy a neck guard, but I buy base layers that have the neck guard in it. It's there, just in case. I'd rather have it than not. So same kind of thing that I would say. If you're going to get socks for hockey, get something that has cut resistance. If you're able to, I think these are totally worth it because they are the most comfortable of the bunch. And so far, they've held up great for me. So, yeah. Recommend it. Go check them out. It's the Aycane A-Shield skate sock. I will throw a link down in the description, the show notes, what have you, to check these guys out. Thanks to Aycane for sending these out to me. I have greatly enjoyed using them. And look forward over the summer for the skate sock shootout. Yeah, I think that's what we'll call it. Then I'll go through all the different skate socks that I've used, pros and cons, what I haven't liked about them, why I've moved on from other ones, things like that, and how some of them have held up or, more importantly, have not held up over the years. All right, thanks a lot, everybody. Catch you in the next one.